Okay, guys, so all you need to get done today is just this Edpuzzle and the assignment. I think you really should be okay. If you had forgotten some of the reflection stuff, you could rewatch the U5L2 Part 1 video because that talked about the reflections. So you should have already copied this, though, from the first Edpuzzle. If you didn't get to that, I'd recommend you do both today because both these videos are pretty short. That one, I think, was 11 minutes or 14 minutes, something like that. Not very long. This one as well, we're only going to do 3 examples, and then you're going to do the assignment. So you should already have these copied down because they're not in the notes packet. I told you to copy them down at the bottom. All we're going to talk about is how these work. We're talking about rotations. Now, when we're in person, typically the way we teach this is you actually rotate your paper in a certain direction in order to do it. But because we're online, it's very hard for me to teach you how to rotate your paper, that trick. So we have instead are these formulas. Now, what this means is if they say to do a 90-degree clockwise rotation, what that means is, hopefully you guys know that a full rotation is 360 degrees, right? That's a full spin, is 360 degrees. So a 90-degree rotation is only a quarter of a turn, yeah? And now clockwise means left or right, basically. You guys know how a clock goes around the circle? Yeah. That's what that refers to. Sorry, 1 second. I'm going to have to cut this part out. Okay, so we also have a 270-degree rotation we're talking about. So 270, if you know this, 270 divided by 90 is 3. So a 270-degree rotation is 3 90-degree turns. So here's 1, 2, 3. That would be a 270-degree rotation. And again, clockwise versus counterclockwise, that means going clockwise, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Clockwise follows the direction of the clock. Counterclockwise goes backwards. So basically, clockwise is to the right, counterclockwise is to the left. And the nice thing about these formulas, though, is we don't really need to know that because all you got to do is pop each point into this formula. Say, for an example, and then we're going to try these questions. Say I have a point that is 2, -3. And it tells me to do a 90-degree clockwise rotation. What will end up happening to this point, here's my x, here's my y, is that my new point, my y is going to go first. Well, if my y was here as -3, my new point is going to have -3 to start with. And then my second is -x. Well, if my original x was 2, now what's going to go here is a -2. So all we have to do right now is practice and understand how to apply these formulas. One, if you have the formula, though, it's going to be pretty simple. So hopefully you have those copied down. Let's go ahead and get started. So we want to rotate this shape clockwise about the origin. Now again, if you're in person, I'd show you how to do it with your paper. You'd be able to do a rotation that way. Here, we're going to apply the formula. So let's go over and copy our formula down. If we have a 180-degree rotation, now with the 180 degrees, it doesn't matter which way you rotate it because it will end up in the same spot, right? 180 degrees is half a turn. There's 180 degrees. If I go the other way, hey, look, it still ends up upside down. So it doesn't matter if it's clockwise or counterclockwise. It's the same formula. So what this means is each point that I currently have will be changed to be this, -x, -y. So what we need to do to start with is to get these points. So I want you to go ahead and practice that because if you can't get the original points, you will not be able to do this test. So go ahead, write down the original points for D, the original point for O, as in what's on right here, and for G. Write down those points. Okay, let's check. So D, we have negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, negative 5, comma, positive 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if you did not get that point correctly, rewrite it. You need to get the correct point. O is a positive 1, and then up 1, 2, 3. G is a negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then down 2. So here's my original points. Here's my X, here's my Y, here's my X, here's my Y, here's my X, here's my Y. My prime points, remember the prime is after we do the transformation. So after we do this rotation, my new points are going to instead look like this. Whatever my original X was, what's going to go here is the negative version of that. And I should say here the opposite version. You want to think about it like that. Negatives makes things opposite. Whatever my original Y was, my new thing here is going to be a negative of that. So originally I had a negative 5. Now I'm going to make that a negative X. So again, my X was a negative 5. My new X is going to be a negative 5, which is a positive. My old position here used to be 6, and now it's telling me to make it a negative. So my new one is a negative 6. Excuse me. That's my first point. There's my first answer. We do this for each point. Whatever it says to do in the formula, here was your original point, X, Y. Here's your new point. We're going to change it to be the new point. So my original X here was 1. I need a negative X. That means this is negative 1. My original Y here was 3. I need a negative Y, so this is negative 3. I want you guys to try this last point. If this is your original point and we're going to change it to negative X, negative Y, what would our new point be here? Okay, if our old point was negative 7 and I need negative X here, that means this is a negative, that's a positive 7. Same thing is going to happen with the 2. It used to be a negative 2, and I want it to be a negative 2. That's positive. So here's my answers. All we did was we looked at the formula. We said, here's our original points, and here's what they are going to become. All they became was the opposite sign of what they originally were. If that's a little confusing, we're going to try it again. Okay, so what we need to do first is copy the formula for this situation. 90 degrees clockwise. Be very careful, guys. If you don't pay attention to the direction, you could get the wrong formula. 90 degree clockwise, we need to go to Y negative X. So for 90 degree clockwise, each point that we have is going to change to Y negative X. So again, whatever my original point is, that's the X and the Y they're referred to. Now this is still DOG, so these points are still the same from the last question. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy those points over. The original points were negative 5, 6. One, 3. And negative 7, negative 2. Okay, so here's my X, here's my Y, here's my X, here's my Y, here's my X, here's my Y. Now, when I do a 90 degrees clockwise rotation to get my D prime, my O prime, my G prime, we got to be careful here. My first number is what the Y was here. My second number is going to be the negative X of what it was here. So let's try this. My first number is going to be the Y from the original point. What was the y from the original point? 6. My original y was 6. That now is going to go there. After I do this rotation, this is where it's going to end up. Now my next number needs to be a negative of my original x. What was the original x in this point? -5. Now be careful. Not only do I need it to be x, I need it to be a negative x. If it was -5 here, that means I now need it to be -5. That's a +5. So that's my answer for D prime. Let's try it again for O. I need to have a y here. So again, I have y -x as my new point. What is the y from this point? 3. That's going to go first now. I am changing my old points to be a new point in this way. Now I need to have a -x. What was my x from this point? 1, and it needs to be negative, so now it is -1. There's my answer. I want you to try the last one on your own. We need to end up at y -x when originally my x is -7 and my y is -2. Go ahead and give it a shot. So if I want the y first, the y from this point was -2. And then I want to have -x. My x here was -7. So -7 is a positive. Here's your answers. I hope this is starting to make sense. Each point gets changed in a new way according to the formula. We might need to flip the y and the x. We might need to make some signs negative. Let's try it one more time. Okay, so we want 270 degrees clockwise. Look to your notes, pause the video real quick, copy down that formula. That's your first step. Okay, 270 degrees clockwise. That formula is right here. We are going to -y, x. Each of my original points are going to be switched to -y, x. So I'm going to show you kind of a trick here that you can do as well that might help. Let's go ahead and get the original points. I'm going to give you a moment to do that because this is now cat. Get those original points and we'll check. Okay, so C, be careful with this, is 0 for x. We don't travel horizontally, we only go up. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 0. And T is -1, 2, 3. And then down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, -6. Okay, so here's a trick you can do. I do want you to try this one all on your own. But this is my x, this is my y, this is my x, this is my y. What you want to look for in the formula is, do I need to switch the x and the y? We are going to need to do that. Notice, originally it was x, y, and now it's y, x. Yes, it's -y, x, but we'll get to that. So what I want you to do first is rewrite these points, switching the x and the y, because they do tell us to do that. Okay, so switching the x and the y, I have 5, 0. I just flip-flopped. I have switching these, 0, 4, and switching these, I have -6, -3. Now we can look at, do I need to make one of them opposite or both of them opposite? And we do. Goodness, sorry. We do. What we just did was we switched the x and the y. Now we need to make the first number opposite. So I'm going to go through now and make this first number the opposite of what it was. Now this is a negative down here, so that becomes a positive. So there's my answers. That might help to do it in chunks that way. Ask yourself, does the formula tell me I need to switch the x and y? If so, do it. And then look at the negatives. Do I need to make one of them negative? Do I need to make both of them negative? It depends on the formula. So we're going to practice this a bit more in class, but I want you to try the assignment and see if we're understanding how this works.